of food we have. Okay. Food we have. And the first thing, okay, the first thing that we need to do, as per David Kessler, for food rehab, is called planned eating. Planned eating. And I love the way, sometimes, you know, somebody else can say something so much better. They just have the right words. And the words that he uses is replacing chaos with structure. Do you know what chaos means? Hefka, you don't know what's going on! Replacing chaos with structure. Who understands chaos eating? Okay? Who understands eating without rhyme, reason, knowing, without hunger, without full, without anything? Who knows it? Okay? Replacing chaos with structure. What does that mean exactly? Okay? So how do we do that? Okay, so you understand me. Okay, you understand me. And the first thing is, okay, replacing chaos with structure. Now, just because you're going to hear this, and just because you're going to nod your head, does not mean that you can do this all by tomorrow morning. It is just the direction. It is the direction, okay? So the first thing is keep away from the stimulus of food when you can. In other words, you don't have to sit next to the toilet. You understand what understands me? Okay? You go to a wedding, you don't have to stand by the Viennese table. Right? You're part of the tzedakah party, you don't have to cut the cake, put the napkins on the table. Keep away, as far away from the food as you can. Makes sense, right? Makes sense? Keep as far away from it as you can. You can't always. But food is very powerful. Who understands me? Who understands me? Whatever promises you make here can be broken in 1 second when you're sitting next to your trigger food. I can talk till I'm blue in the face. I'll go home. If there's a jar of peanut butter, I'll forget everything I said here. Me, I will forget everything I said. And I tell you this all the time. There are people who do not bring out my best. They don't bring out my best. So I don't look to hang out where those people are. I do not invite those people into my home. And when I see those people, I say a quick hello and move on. There are foods that do not bring out my best. I do not look to hang out where those foods are. I certainly don't invite those foods into my home. And yes, you invite them into your home. And if I see those foods, I try not even to say a quick hello, and I move on. I don't want to be around things that are not good for me. I don't want to be around things that are going to hurt me. I don't want to be around people that are going to hurt me. I don't want to be around situations that are going to hurt me. And I don't want to be around foods that are going to hurt me. You understand? You understand? That's what this means. Okay? Keep away from something that is not good for you. When you know is not good for you. Make a hasty exit. Number 2, curb impulsive behavior, which means think before you act. We eat first. You know, in everything that we do, we think first and then we act. You go to buy a dress, right? You go to buy a dress, you try it on, you look, you look in the mirror, how does it fit? What color is it? What am I going to wear with it? Where can I wear it? Am I going to, what's the price? Am I going to get use out of it? Yes, no, yes, no. I don't know about it. Okay? You pick up something in the supermarket. Let's see. Let's look at the picture. Let's look at the price. Let's look at the ingredients. You think, who's going to eat it? Is anybody going to like it? All right, I'll get it. First we eat, then we think. On impulse. And I have to tell you something. Whatever you do in haste is usually the wrong thing. You understand? Whatever you do without thinking is very often the wrong thing. Think before you act. Think before you do that impulsive thing. And those people who've been with me know what it means to think. Okay? It means to stop 1 minute and say to yourself, "Thank you, Hashem, I now know. Thank you, Hashem, that I now know that if I eat that jar of peanut butter, I'm going to be an unhappy human being." Stop. Thank you, Hashem, I now know that if I eat this thing, I'm going to gain 2 pounds, and I don't want to do that. Thank you, Hashem. I now know that 5 minutes after I eat it, I will wish I hadn't. Give me a minute to think. And I have to tell you something else. Have you ever said yes impulsively and 5 minutes later say, why did I say that? Why did I say that? Okay. Oh, can you take care of my 10 kids while I go on vacation? Oh, sure. Okay. So now you know, just breathe. Give yourself time to think before you answer. Who understands me? Who understands me in the food area and in the other areas as well? Who's ever said yes when they meant no? Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. How do I know? I'm living in this world, right? I'm living in this world. How do I know? It's called experience. It's called experience. Thank you, Hashem. I now know that I need a minute to think before I make a decision. Who understands me? Curb impulsive behavior. What I eat without thinking about first, I am going to be sorry I ate. Yes or no? I am never going to be sorry if I ate a tomato. Never. It's the other stuff. And each of us knows exactly what our trigger foods are. Everyone knows, okay? Decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable for yourself. What's acceptable for you might not be acceptable for me. What's acceptable for me might not be acceptable for you. Steve Jobs. Anybody know who Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs founded Apple. Changed our country, and he died recently. And he did a speech that was broadcast everywhere. And I actually have a part of a copy. I'll read it to you. It's incredible. But he said a couple of things. He said, first of all, he said, don't waste time living someone else's life. And don't waste time doing your old behaviors of living your old life. It is time for change. Okay, anybody understand that? Anybody understand that? Okay. What is acceptable and what is not acceptable? And in each of our lives, there are things that are not acceptable, okay? It is not acceptable to take something that doesn't belong to you, right? Is that right? Is that true? Is that true? There are people in this world who don't say that it's not acceptable. They take things that don't belong to them. Is that true? Is that true? Yes? There are people, for you, your texture is acceptable to you. Is that correct? Okay? And one person's texture might not be acceptable to someone else and vice versa. Is that true? Is that true? Right? Is that true? It is not acceptable to stand while you eat. Okay. It is not acceptable to eat things that are not healthy. Okay? Anybody? Not acceptable? Okay. So you decided, you are thinking, why that always gets a laugh, you know? It always gets a laugh. So it is up to you to decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. It is not up to me to decide for you. And it is not up to her to decide for her or her to decide it. But when you set up values for yourself, it is important for you to live by your values of what is acceptable to you and what is not acceptable to you. Okay? It is important for you to live by your own values. Who understands that? Who understands it? Okay. Who understands it? So it's your decision. What is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And I would encourage you to make a list about food behaviors, eating behaviors, things that you have been doing that maybe are not in your best interest, but it's up to you. If you want to put yourself in food rehab, then you need. Please, when I say you, I mean me as well. I'm right in there with you. Okay? What is acceptable behavior and what is not acceptable behavior? And it is up to you to live by those values. Because when you don't live by your values, you never feel good about it, right? Okay? Who's ever done something against their better judgment? Right? You know you're doing it wrong. You know you're going to be sorry. Because it's not acceptable behavior, okay? Take away the need to make decisions at vulnerable moments. In other words, when you're exhausted and it's 2 in the morning, okay?
Go to bed.
All right? But it's 2 in the morning, you're exhausted, you don't feel good, you have a sore throat, you have a headache, and you're standing in front of the counter. The bread basket, the cookie, the nosh cabinet. You think that that's a good time for you to make a decision about what to eat? Okay? You know what your vulnerable moments are.